In this episode...
It's all about the premiums.
Or is it?
The Fantasy Football Show.
Hello listeners and welcome to episode 6 of Planet FPL, the world where everything revolves around Fantasy Premier League. My name's Suj.
My name is James.
Game week 1 is over.
High scoring.
Game week 1 is over. If we thought last season's game week 1 was high scoring, this one pissed it up the wall.
Rip up your teams, get the 4 big boys in and just have budgets everywhere else.
Anything less than 80 points this week was a disappointment.
Incorrect. I keep hearing that.
I think 80 is the benchmark.
Incorrect.
To be on 80 points and be outside the top 500,000 is got to be disappointing. Now, depends how you look at it. If you still got 65 or 75 points, the gap is not that big. So the gap is not an issue, but in a week where Aubameyang and double returns for Kane and Sterling and Salah and a City clean sheet is the cause of this 80 points plus average. But I'm approaching it from a position where I did get more than 80 points, so it's comfortable. But I would be a little disappointed if I scored less than 80 points.
If you scored 65 points, which is the average, I believe.
Yes.
65.
65.
Right, you maintain that average all season long. Like, perfect example, right? So
Yeah.
I changed my mind quite late in the week to sacrifice De Bruyne to manage to fit Sterling in.
Mm-hmm.
It looks like a great decision, right?
Yes.
So, you pay 2.5 million more. You get the 13 extra points, or what? I think it was 13 extra Sterling got over De Bruyne.
Yep.
Right, yeah. But De Bruyne might just keep chipping away at his sevens, right? And Sterling might have quite a few like blanks and stuff. And it will meet somewhere.
If you kept the same players and didn't transfer them, yes.
Obviously, for game week
but you
one...
make moves, right? So it doesn't work out like that.
For game week 1, it's the right decision, obviously. But over time, in terms of the value between the two players, that's not necessarily going to be the case.
If you don't jump in between other players, though, and we do, so that's the challenge, right? Because if you look at the person that wins FPL, inevitably does better because you catch players on the right
well, of
hot
course,
streaks,
yeah.
And you need to do that because 2,500 points or 2,600 points is more than 200 points per player average. So you do need to catch the right streaks, and that's where you would want to jump on and off players like Sterling and De Bruyne and what have you. But overall, this was I'd like to say it was a freak game week. For that many people to score that highly, 65 points is a monstrous average. Like anywhere circa between 40 and 50 is what's normal, right? 55 on a good week, 65 mental.
I don't know the numbers overall, but I presume that 98, 99% of players hit their captain.
Yeah, more than likely. Because if it wasn't Salah, it was Sterling or Kane. And there's a handful that would have gone.
Salah and Kane were the main two choices for the week.
Yep.
From our opinion. And there's plenty that went, well, I'm not going with either, and I'll just trust in a Sterling. Even all those who probably less in the know who went with Aguero, came on and scored the penalty. Right?
Just.
Yeah. But then, so Mane was the only one at over 10 million valuation who didn't return him. What did he play, 15 minutes or something?
Exactly, yeah.
So I can see already the instinct of people being, from a majority of people probably got 2 of, let's say, Aubameyang, Salah, Sterling, Kane. Probably 2.
Yeah.
And over time, you're going to want to probably throw Mane and Aguero into that conversation.
Sure.
So you got those 6 big players. I think the instinct now is going to be of people, how do I fit in 3? Now, there's quite a few teams out there that have got, say, Sterling, Salah and Kane.
Correct.
They've fucking killed it this week. They've probably captained Salah, and then they've still got the backup of the 33-odd points of Sterling and Kane on top of a 24 of Salah, right? That's like 57 points for the 3 of them.
Mm-hmm.
And it wouldn't really matter if the rest of their team was bog standard shit.
It's not going to happen. It's probably not going to happen again this season.
Another 8-2s would still put you on 73 points, right? With no other returns.
Yeah.
But building your team like that, at the moment, until we've got more value in the bank, etc., is probably not on, really.
No.
If you look at the fixtures this week, that shit looks hard now.
The official account, it might have been Hub actually, tweeted the usual, describe your game week in a GIF. And I tweeted a roller coaster because it was a real up and down game week for me. We both were together when we watched the Liverpool game, live streamed that. So if anyone hasn't caught up on that, it's probably not worth watching now. But it was good fun to be a part of. So if we do, when we do live stream a game again, jumping in on a bit of live super chat or whatever they call it on YouTube, was real good fun. But that was a game that we went into without Salah and triple Liverpool defence. 15 points from 3 defenders any given week. I'll take it, especially when none of them have got a clean sheet against their name. And we didn't have Captain Salah. Closely followed by then a bit of recovery against City. I mean, that was painful because it was against my team, but there was an FPL small amount of recovery all the way through to the Tottenham game where we both had Harry Kane up until 85 minutes, guns to our heads, and then bang, he's suddenly double returned, back on it. And I'm looking at my overall score of 85 points and thinking if Liverpool had kept that clean sheet, that was a 100-point game week. And then there was a bit of a catch-up from players that had gone for Rashford and Aubameyang on the Sunday to an overall rank drop. I was at 172,000 on the end of Saturday, dropped down to like 500 and something K. So 500 and something thousand with 85 points. Tough.
But just think of it as a single game week rank, right?
Yeah.
I forget who said it last year. It might have even been the guys on the surgery possibly said it. But like, if you're in and around sort of like an average game week rank of say 1.2 million, which never feels great when you hit it. But if you're averaging near that every single week, you are going to have a very good FPL season.
Yes.
You're not going to need too many where you're scrambling in the top 100,000 for the game week. What you got to avoid is those game week ranks of like 4 million where we all have the fucking disaster, don't we?
Yeah. And it was interesting from that kind of point of view. I looked at a bunch of teams in a couple of the mini leagues like the Planet FPL mini league and the correspondence guys teams as well, who are a little bit higher up, who had maybe high 80s or early 90s. And the thing was that a few had made the sacrifice to get all 3 in terms of Kane, Salah, Sterling. And they had more blanks than I did. And I still think that my big at the back defence and your strategy as well, over the next 3 game weeks, is going to come in strong. They all had players that gave me that intake of breath. Not sure about him necessarily. And more than one of those because they had to make sacrifices. So good game week for everyone. Keep your powder dry for now, and let's see how it progresses.
The lowest correspondence score from the 23 of them this week was 63 points.
Wow.
Was the lowest.
Wow. I've got a mini league with some other pals that I'm in. There's a friend of mine, Dario. He's an Italian geezer. He likes his football, and he showed me his team on Friday lunchtime. And I kid you not, I said to him, you need to change at least 8 or 9 of your 11. No word of a lie. And he looked, no, but I like some of these guys. I sent him a few screen grabs of a few teams, and he said, maybe I'll make room for a big name striker. I'll go with Aguero. It's like, Aguero's not going to start, according to most people. 25 points he called in at, which was
That was his week.
25 points. So yesterday, we were out together at the barbecue, right? Enjoying ourselves. If you've been on James's Twitter feed on Planet FPL Pod, you'll have seen Pasby, who works in the office next door. He goes, I've beat that. 24 points.
Wow.
Yes.
There you go, community. Idiots exist.
And these guys are not just mucking around. They're genuinely trying their best to do it as best as they possibly can. 24 points.
I got a message for them. Try fucking harder.
Well, it's tough, yeah. 24 points. He didn't put his team in, but Dario.
I didn't see.
Tough.
I didn't see any real disaster scores across Twitter at all. None.
Those were pretty bad. So it does go to show that they did exist.
I think majority of Twitter community went with sort of like Captain Salah with Sterling, so we're pretty safe for the week.
Oh, this must have been Saturday. He's lucked out at 40 points in total, which is still above average. But Captain Aguero.
But what average is that?
Catrone and Allaire up front, blanked. Richarlison, Mane, Robertson, Emerson, Kepa. It's a
I
double
think
Chelsea
I think I
defence.
was just sick in the back of my mouth, mate.
2 donuts at the back in terms of Kepa and Emerson. But Emerson inside of the post and bar.
What is your objective sharing this team? Is it just to make everyone feel better? Or?
Yeah, like I suppose it goes to show that whilst on one side you're seeing everyone, I'm saying that above 80, less than 80, you got to be disappointed. But yeah, there is a balance and a yin and a yang. There's a reason the overall average was 65 points.
No. Anything on the average or above this week, fine. Honestly, absolutely fine. Yeah. I really believe that.
I don't
it's
think
game week 1.
Another game week like it. So.
Nothing's lost yet. And this week's good. I promise you, this week I'm absolutely certain there are going to be some bad scores this week. I'm absolutely certain of it.
Tell us about your team. You clocked 88 in total.
Yeah, I'm particularly delighted because, as I said on the stream we were doing Friday night, and I've said it on the pods before, I've come to an acceptance that if I want an average of 65 and go in treble Liverpool defensive, I'm going to have some peaks and some troughs, right? And I kind of said, any week where Liverpool concede, I'll probably take 50.
Yeah.
So to have them concede and still smash out the 88, yeah, I'm happy. Because my other guy, that's covered me off more than a couple of Liverpool defensive goals in future weeks. And some. So that's really cool. So I'm concerned about this Alisson situation, but I'm not making any moves away from that currently.
Southampton away, you'd expect Liverpool to still have a majority of the possession there anyway.
Yeah, you would still expect them to go and win. I think
Southampton have just conceded 3.
Probably, I think Aubameyang, if he's in your squad, is the best captaincy option this week. But Burnley had a great result at the weekend. And I think after that, it's probably Salah, then Sterling would probably be how you'd rank it this week.
Yeah, yeah.
But the problem with Aubameyang is that people like me have gone with Kane. You're looking at it and going, fucking hell, that's such an obvious change. He's probably the best captaincy option, Kane away to City. Next week, you're just going to want to flip that back with Arsenal away to Liverpool.
It's not enough of an upside to justify wasting a transfer.
No, I don't think so either. That's the conclusion I'm coming to.
Who were your differential picks that you had that you were disappointed with or didn't return?
Well, I only had four players, 3 players who didn't return.
Yeah,
which was Heaton,
yeah,
Robertson, and Fraser.
Okay.
He had assist Alexander-Arnold, goal Van Dijk, goal and clean sheet Walker, clean sheet Zinchenko,
assist Walker.
Assist Lucas Moura and Callum Wilson. Should have scored Callum Wilson. Sterling hat-trick, obviously, and Kane's 2 as captain.
Yep.
Take that 8 out of 11 game week 1. The one thing I would say on reflection, I was thinking about this a little bit Saturday night on the way home from Spurs, was game week 1 scores, if you think about it, should be higher than a normal game week, because essentially we're all on a wild card basically, right?
Yeah.
And we're all selecting the team. It's not like you could have great fixtures in game week 10 where it's obvious to go, treble Liverpool, treble City, treble Spurs, for example. But were we in a position to get there?
No.
Whereas we were all in a kind of position to start out. I essentially picked, 6 between Liverpool and City, 2 Spurs, 2 Bournemouth, and a goalkeeper. A goalkeeper could have been anyone. I think people said to me, when you go and Heaton for when Kane's your captain, I look at Villa's fixtures for the next 8 or 9 or 10 and think, that'll do if I'm not going to wildcard early. Not a problem.
I had a similar situation to you. I had 4 that didn't return. Aller, Perez, Ceballos, and then Robertson. But 2 returns defensively from Van Dijk and Trent, and then Zinchenko's clean sheet, Sterling's hattie, Wilson's assist, and Kane's double goal return. The 3 that from midfield and attack that didn't return were the differentials. Perez, differentials being, not top 6 players. Ceballos, Perez, and Aller. Aller I saw enough of to justify staying in the team when we play someone who's not top of the league. And Perez I've picked for a slightly longer period. He's playing up front, so that's fine. I still got a clean sheet, 1 extra point for him. Ceballos is the only one from my team that now has a question mark because he didn't start, but he did come off the bench. Whether or not I carry on with him for another week when there's an equally capable replacement that's really stuck his hand up in the air in McGinn, I'm going to wait and see until Friday. But there is that move that I could potentially make.
All right.
Yeah. Should we run down some of the games? As we do, talk about some of the games, and then we can run down some of the Twitter questions that have come in from the community. But yeah, before we do, I think it's worth giving a shout out to Planet FPL Live 2. We're now only 2 and a bit weeks away from our second ever live show in London. It's going to be on the 24th of August. A full day of football and FPL, starting at 12:30, Norwich-Chelsea. Early kickoff for those that want to get down to the pub and have a pre-drink. 3 o'clock till 4:45. I'm going to be Jeff Stelling. He's going to be Paul Merson.
None of that, man.
Oh,
I have fucking Letizia back.
You had Letizia, and I downgraded you to Paul Merson. Nah. So we're going to be live. We're recording a live episode of the show whilst the 3 o'clock games are taking place. So giving a bit of commentary on the points as they come in, as well as looking at the game week and answering some questions from the audience. Followed by, again, we'll be having a couple more pints and watching Liverpool Arsenal at 5:30. Full day of FPL, dip in, dip out as you see fit. Tickets are available on Eventbrite now. £5 a ticket gets you a free drink on arrival, which basically covers your £5. And that's all. It's going to be a nice, good vibe, and a number of the community are going to be there. So do come down and join us. Anything to add to that?
No, I'll put the link into the tweet of the podcast.
Correct. Sounds good.
Tweet 2 or something.
Nice. Sounds good.
Just fucking ask me anyway, and I'll send you a link.
Exactly. But do come down. It's now the days are ticking down. If you are part of an FPL mini league, it's a great way to get everybody together to have a couple of drinks and talk FPL in an environment where everybody's talking about football.
We have
FPL,
people coming from around the country again.
Yes, exactly. People travel from all around the place.
It staggers
but
me,
it's such a good mini league meetup. So we're hoping that people can come in groups. If you do come with your group of mini leagues, then we'll be taking questions and stuff. Try and get people involved, make the show interactive.
Oh, it will be, definitely.
Yes. Let's talk about the games. Friday, kick-off. We'll go in order of chronological. Liverpool 4, Norwich 1. I mean, that clean sheet buster was disappointing. Norwich, got to give them credit. They played well. They caused Liverpool problems. But I don't think you can really read too much into it, because Liverpool were 4-0 up at half-time. They're naturally going to take their foot off the gas. So you're kind of saying, well, Liverpool didn't play at their best and Norwich did particularly well. Liverpool already 4-0 up, and Norwich had to give it a go away at Anfield on the first day of the season. Ultimately, Liverpool were clinical. I thought Salah played particularly well. A number of times he cut in from the wing and could have put it in the side netting, top corner, whatever.
I don't think we learned anything on Liverpool here.
No, we didn't.
That we didn't already.
I mean,
no.
We learned that Adrian's not as secure as Alisson.
Well, I mean, as a team, they didn't look secure on the night, particularly. Even at 0-0 and at 1-0, Norwich had half chances, decent. I mean, had a lot more efforts on goal than most teams.
They did. If you look at Steeperman's shots, they were outside of the box. There was quite a bit of outside of the box stuff going on, though.
Leitner hit the bar in the second half when he come on as well. Thought he was quite impressive. Little bits from like Buendia, like Steeperman.
Pookie.
I like the fullbacks. I like Lewis, especially Aarons is the one who gets more attention. The problem is they are not going to stay up with Grant Hanley at centre half. Now, in fairness, he's fourth choice centre half.
Yeah.
And he's a 4.0, if you like that kind of shit. They are missing Klose and Zimmerman, who have both been injured. I'm not sure either to stay. I think Godfrey could really develop into a half-decent centre-half. But if they don't fix that, it won't matter how many goals they score at the other end. They will go down. They're going to give some teams some trouble.
Pookie played particularly well. The thing I liked about Pookie was his movement and the way he tried to keep getting in behind, running down the channels. He's one of those forwards that, as a centre half, you're constantly having to watch. Where's he going now? He's pesky, I think.
I think he's one of them who it's not fashionable maybe to describe him as. There's nothing. He hasn't got a striking talent or particular ability that makes you think, oh, he's quick or he's good in the air or his hold up spectacular.
His work rate is probably his thing.
He's just all round. He's decent, and when he gets there, he knows how to finish.
That's the thing.
And for this, that's the most important.
It's like
thing.
when he got his chance, he didn't even look up. He shot right. The ball came through. He didn't look up. He knew where the goal was. Hit it, bottom corner.
I've seen people saying online today, 6.5 million forwards, what a problem. Well, he scored at Anfield.
Yes.
Ashley Barnes scored twice on the Saturday.
Correct.
Jota, fucking hell, Hotter had numerous chances at Leicester.
Yeah, he was a bit wasteful that day.
It's not a massive problem.
No, I think I can see myself, if Haller doesn't give me returns in the next couple of games, and I don't see what I want, then I'll be moving down to Jota's my main one that I'm considering at the moment, but there are options there. Pukki is one of them.
What we obviously have to talk about with Liverpool, bearing in mind, like we said, there's not really anything learnt. Alisson.
Yes.
So, what do people do? Now, there's two parts to this. There's people who have had Alisson and there's people who haven't. So, for those that have, is the obvious answer to go straight to Adrian till he's fit?
How long is Alisson out for? We don't know. This is the problem. I
saw a quote that he said it was like someone shot him in the calf. There's been lots of rumours it's a knee injury. It's a calf injury.
I think it's a calf injury too.
Now, the suggestion today is that it's going to be weeks rather than months. Mm-hmm. If it's weeks, it's not a major issue. And I would probably, if you've decided you want to go premium goalkeeper, I'd probably stay around that value.
Yeah.
If it's going to be months, it's a massive, massive problem. I said numerous times with this treble Liverpool defensive for us, you take a key component out of that and it's a fucking blow-off.
It is.
Alisson and Van Dijk are the two key components to the clean sheets in that team.
Yeah. The shaky defensive errors did come a little more from Gomez's side, and they were targeting Gomez over
Van Dijk will still massively get... not Van Dijk, sorry. TAA will still massively get caught out positionally. He does. Positionally, he's got a lot to improve. It's what he adds dimensionally with the ball as an attacking threat. Is obviously why he's so important to them.
His delivery, to be honest, I hadn't really...
Frightening him.
Yeah, his delivery was great. And also set piece, the free kick that he hit. I mean, that was a great free kick that
assist for Origi's goal as well.
Saved, yeah. Class. So we got 2 attacking returns from the Liverpool defence. So at the moment, hold tight, wait and see.
What would be your keeper advice?
If you owned Alisson,
yeah.
I mean, okay, are we working off the assumption that people have 3 City already, so Ederson's not an option? If Ederson is an option, I'd probably just go with Ederson, because if you haven't got 3 City, you can take 3 City and you can afford to make that sideways move. If you've got 3 City already, then it becomes a little bit more difficult. I'd probably go to Leno at 5 million maybe. If you want to use the money elsewhere, Leno. Pickford.
Yeah, I mean,
Leno or Pickford.
I think where we were unsure a couple of weeks ago, a few 4.5s have really emerged now in Heaton and Pope and Henderson. Matt Ryan, you can definitely make arguments for.
Yeah, we spoke on the People's Poll. We did a rundown of Brighton, and 3 of their next 4 at home. The only problem with if you go with Matt Ryan is that away game at City, you're going to have to just suck it in and deal with it, really. But 3 of the next 4 at home, which are West Ham, Southampton, and Burnley after that, right? West Ham,
yes,
Southampton,
that's
Burnley.
correct. Yeah.
So, that's a real good option there. So, there's some 4.5s out there. Now, if you do jump down to a 4.5 and then you spend the money elsewhere, know that it's going to be hard for you to come back to Alisson, but maybe you just completely take a change in strategy.
Now, there's people that are concerned, even people with, say, a combination of Alexander-Arnold, Van Dijk and Salah. There are people concerned.
Not for me. I think Trent is Trent, but what I saw there, attacking returns, he'll more than pay for himself throughout the season. And I think Liverpool will still end up keeping a few clean sheets.
I think I saw Van Dijk's got 6 in 18 now or something. Goals.
Okay.
Like shit.
Fuck! I'd give for a striker.
If the delivery,
I'd give for a striker at West Ham that scored 6 in 18.
If the delivery, I mean, he didn't even jump for the headed goal on Friday night.
No.
But there was some. I think back to sort of the Newcastle goal in game week 37 last year. If he gets a run at it, you ain't stopping him. Forget about it. So. Yeah, I mean, those two, because we'll combine at one point this year for a goal and assist. You'll piss yourself laughing. I've obviously got 3 with Robertson as well. No panic. But watching closely. I'm concerned, but I'm not going to make a move.
It's not at that point yet. No, definitely not. Let's move on to Saturday. Early kickoff, 12:30. So West Ham 0, Manchester City 5. Again, we give a bit more of an in-depth rundown on Tottenham, our show where we talk about this new team that we've created that lost 6-3 at the weekend.
Listen, if you want to join my club, you can join it. I'm not interested in whacking your score onto my score.
It's a good thing.
It's just going to make my score look worse most weeks. So I'm really not interested.
Yeah,
in that.
That's why I'm enjoying doing it.
Let's stop pretending like we're friends because you don't like my lot.
I couldn't care less.
I saw Wilshire's got a knock.
He has he? Probably not. We had a tough day at the office. Started really well though, to be honest. It was one of those where you got to go for it against the top sides, but it's just the psychological factor of knowing that you're not going to get the ball much, and so when you do, the pressure is right. We've got an attack. We need to do something, and then you get rushed into making mistakes because in your head you're desperate to try and get something to come off, and that's how it felt in the first half. We were getting chances, harrying, getting the ball back, having reasonable spells of play, but the final third, there was no attempts in the final third. So that was kind of where we really let ourselves down. The City goal, the first goal, was a real kick in the teeth. I would say it came against the run of play, but the way that Kyle Walker went around Cresswell, it was like chalk and cheese. And then the deflection of Diop, they're 1-0 up, and you've got an uphill battle as soon as you're 1-0 down. Real struggle. Second half, I don't know if there's a lot to read into this in terms of the second half, but I was looking at the way that United went on and won 4-0 against Chelsea, that when some of these better teams go 2 or 3 up, there's a chance that they'll run on and pick up another 2 or 3 goals. I feel like we're going to see from Liverpool, City, maybe you guys here and there, but from the bigger boys, some big scores this year where teams are really struggle for fitness and then just get steamrolled. And that's kind of what happened in the second half. There were some positives, there were some negatives. Negatives were really the unforced errors, giving the ball away the way that Wilshere and Lanzini did when they're much better players than that. And for me, that was all psychological pressure. But we'll line up as we did 4-2-3-1, and that's going to be our formation for the season now. You might see Antonio rotated with Fornals, but that's about it.
I think we talk about it more on tomorrow's, but I think the idea of going to West Ham game week 2 is not on the table right now. We need to see a bit more.
Yeah, I mean, I went with Haller in game week 1 as a punt because I like the idea of having a differential, and if it did come off, then it would have paid off. But there was no one there that I would say you need to buy right now. No one.
No, Anderson's potentially got a knock as well.
Yeah, there's no one.
I wanted to read a couple of comments from Guardiola this morning, which are interesting, and you can read into them however you like. This is on Jesus. Gabriel came back with incredible speed and energy. So Sergio has to know, wow, Gabriel is in top form. We realised that it is the reason why we did what we did last season. Every player has to know it. He also said, the only problem Riyad Mahrez had last season is that he had one of the best players of the season in his position, Bernardo. Now knows, wow, Riyad is an incredible player and has to make a step forward. It's the only way to maintain our levels.
I don't read anything into these statements because Guardiola's started coming out with so many statements that are clearly designed and aimed at his players more than they are the truth of the situation. Last week he came out and said that Phil Foden is one of the most talented young players that he's ever worked with, and he's never worked with a player as good technically as Phil, and that he's just got to keep working hard. This is a guy that worked at Barcelona and managed Messi and fucking Iniesta and Xavi. These comments are aimed at his players very, very clearly. Now, has Jesus come back with a lot of energy and is he playing particularly well? Sure, yeah, definitely. But I don't think it's fair to say that Bernardo Silva was one of the best players last year playing in Mahrez's position. Tons of the season, Sterling was playing on the right.
Yeah, Bernardo Silva had a really, really good, particular second half of the season.
So would you say Bernardo Silva played in Mahrez's position?
Yes.
Sterling played the majority of the season on the right.
No,
Sane had plenty of time on the left.
Really,
Bernardo played on the left.
I'm sure if you break it down, I would bet you Sterling ended up on the left more than the right.
You do have that website. I can't even remember the one. Was it who
Who scored, maybe?
Yeah,
They'll
which
have the
shows
details
you
of
the
it.
positions of
Yeah.
where people played. I would be surprised. Now, Mahrez had other players as well in and ahead of him. That Mahrez didn't have to contend with Kevin De Bruyne for the whole of last season as another midfield option, potentially, right? Sure, I don't know. For me, Pep's comments are a big pinch of salt because they're clearly aimed at every other week. It's another player who's the most talented player that he's potentially worked with.
I think this isn't going to affect so many people, obviously, on the Jesus Aguero thing, not for our listeners anyway.
Yeah.
There'll be a lot of gone Bernardo,
Yeah.
and I feel for them a bit. I would still be very surprised if Bernardo Silva doesn't play against Spurs at the weekend. Very surprised. But then Mahrez, 3 assists.
Yeah.
He don't deserve to get dropped, does he?
He played well, and I thought David Silva played well as well. He had to play a slightly deeper role. David Silva picking up the pieces and kind of setting up the play allows De Bruyne to really break free from midfield, and he did that a couple of times where that's how they scored goals.
We talk. One of the reasons I ended up going back to Sterling was the confirmation of Sane's injury. Made me feel a lot clearer in safety in Sterling's minutes. Not that it was a particular concern, but then, okay, I know, right, he's going to play on the left at the moment. Because neither Mahrez or Bernardo, I don't really see that side. You kind of see them competing for the right. Sterling can play on the left. We spoke about it when we had Johnny on Thursday last week. It's not an issue. We talk so much about Sane and what he would do points-wise if he played every week.
Yeah.
Mahrez isn't far away from that.
Yeah. I mean, he's blessed with... I think Mahrez is a very creative player, and give him the talent around him that can put the ball in the back of the net. He'll create chances.
In terms of power for FPL, Mahrez has a lot more power than Bernardo in terms of what his capability of points is.
It's a risk, though.
Bernardo's going to tick you over constant streams, a little bit like Kevin De Bruyne. Mahrez can get you double points quite regularly if he finds a place in that team. I'm not sure it's going to happen.
It's going to be tricky.
Tough call for Bernardo Silva owners this week, I think. Real tough. I think he'll play.
Yeah. I mean, Pep does like to rotate. I'm never going to be in the guessing game of Pep's team ever. So let's move on to Bournemouth 1, Sheffield United 1. I would say Bournemouth struggled to kind of break Sheffield United down.
Sloppy.
They just first day of school kind of vibes. They had a few chances. Metham came in and rewarded your selection just 4 months too late. But for all intents and purposes, Sheffield United kept plugging away. Some of the changes that Chris Wilder made were attacking, not defensive, and ended up with Billy Sharp coming on and Billy Sharp.
Yeah, a couple of points on both. Lundstrom, I saw, had the third highest XA this weekend.
He picked up a BPS.
4.0. Yeah.
He picked up a BPS, and he was my third substitute. So there was never a chance that he was getting anywhere near the team. But
at the moment, he's in the slight tactical tweak from Sheffield United on last season. What I saw at the weekend was it was more of a kind of a 3-4-1-2 last season with Stevens and Baldock pushing up from the wing-back positions. A little bit more conservative in those areas. I think it's fair, and obviously first away game as well, see where you're at. But more of a blank of a 3. Rather than someone in at a 10. They still played with the front two, McGoldrick and Robinson, but it was more of a 3. Now that gives Lundstrom a real shot to be in that team. It's worth noting they've got Besic in from loan, who I don't rate as a footballer at all. I think it's still a loan from Everton. Osborne from Forest could develop into the option there. They've got a bit of depth. Lundstrom's place in the team is not secure, but actually, those who have said, no, he's not going to get the minutes, they've changed shape a bit. So maybe he possibly is. And for those who are on, stay on, it's fine.
he's a 4 million defender playing in the middle of the park.
On Bournemouth...
You're happy to stay with Lundstrom?
Yeah. I mean, it's a clear error. He's not a defender.
No.
It's a clear error. He's number 7. It's a clear error. We've got Neil on AFC BNG with Adam Hopcroft on Thursday. We'll talk about Villa and Bournemouth in a bit more detail then. One of the things I'm keen to ask Neil is whether he thinks they'll play 3 at the back again. Rico, another 4.0, got minutes.
Yeah.
Bournemouth at any time can change, I feel, between 3 and 4. Fraser played in quite an attacking position as part really of a front three, but didn't have a particular effect on the game. Wilson and King were both quite quiet as well. That's to Sheffield United's credit, I would say.
Yeah,
Bournemouth,
I think you
Bournemouth
have to
we
say
have
that.
seen have struggled in games where you have an expectation on them to do well. And as I said, Sheffield United played a little bit more cautious than perhaps Bournemouth might have expected, and repelled them quite well. One of the things that I did pick up from watching the game at the weekend from Bournemouth, which is quite unusual, long throws. So Billings come in and made his debut, had one great effort from the edge of the box from Huddersfield. He's got a launch on him. So what they were doing was, anything in and around the box, Billing with a long throw from the left, and Steve Cook, who played as the centre of the back three, was going up and taking them from the right. Aki and Metham were also both going up for these long throws.
Yeah.
So particularly when the throwing was from the right, they were leaving themselves with all three centre halves going up. There's positives and negatives to that. But I found it unusual that Bournemouth would suddenly try and use that as a tactic against a side which is very physically capable in the air centre half. Well, those three centre halves are all good in the air.
Yeah.
Something to note on maybe because if they're gonna carry on with that and play with a back three, then Metham and Aki are going to go into the box on more than just corners, is the point.
Do you think Billings going to be a starter now? I'd be interested in Neil's opinion on that as well, because he's priced so cheap at 5 million, and he does get forward when he can. And
if they're going to
chances.
play that way, Billing and Jefferson Lerma, he's a fucking shit house. He just really doesn't fit in Bournemouth for their neat play. He's he's a wind-up merchant. It doesn't really fit. I guess every team needs one. They're quite powerful. They can get around the pitch. I can see that. Lewis Cook's not fit at the moment. There's others who can fit in there. They've got an opportunity to make that their own. I think Bournemouth are more suitable with more of two proper wingers in like a 4-4-2. I feel that's when they're at their most dangerous. It will be a different game at the weekend because the crowd at Villa Park will be on them to try and go and win the game without a doubt. And Bournemouth are at their best on the counter. So it's a lot saying sort of Fraser to Martial, no brainer. Not convinced yet.
Burnley 3, Southampton 0. Now we pre-season had hopes for Southampton with Aston, who there were not really that many FPL considerations just because they were priced $500,000 to $1 million too much. A lot of their players like Ward-Prowse and Redmond and Ings and so on and so on. There were a couple that were on Che Adams and maybe Yoshida or one of the defenders, but not many. Their ownership numbers were really low considering that we were expecting probably a half-decent season. No one had them to go down, right? No one was tipping them to go down at all. Hassan Hüttl's aggressive pressing style completely came unstuck against Burnley, sorry.
The problem is, looking at Southampton, I think these two, we'd really highlighted both clubs in the summer, expect them to have better seasons. Based on how their performances in the second for last year, Burnley particularly, results were really good.
Really good. As soon as they shook off the Europa League.
Southampton, you could argue both teams haven't strengthened, particularly, throughout the squad. Southampton obviously got Adams in. Burnley have not done a lot of business.
No.
Bits on the outside with kind of Rodriguez, Drinkwater, just firm Eric Peters at left back, just firm up the squad a little bit. But in terms of improving the team, they haven't really. But he's gone back to his tried and trusted with the two up front. You feel quite comfortable with them. With Southampton, I think they've made a major rick not improving in the centre of defence. I think the rest of the team's all right. You can push for top half. Those that are in the back three are not good enough. I don't think any of them are good, to put it bluntly. I think they're all
none of them are good
bang
man,
average.
son.
They've got Bednarek, Stevens, Yoshida, Vestergaard. They're all average. None of them are better than average. Vestergaard, I mean, both the first two goals. He got caught on the wind for Eric Peters' assist was mad. You ain't getting to get assists like that in August again with the wind assist. But he's just sleeping on the second goal, Vestergaard. Poor.
Eric Peters is the one that's going to get a lot of attention because of the 2 assists and the clean sheet, and he's priced at 4.5
The first assist is an absolute freak.
Yeah, that's the
when
difficulty.
you watched it on the main camera, so he launches it up in the air and you think, oh, it's going to drop there. And when the ball comes back into the camera, it's got about another 20 yards forward. Barnes took it really well. What Ashley Barnes does really, really well, actually, is he takes efforts early.
Yeah.
If it's there to be hit, he hits it. He doesn't overthink things. If he can get a shot away, he gets a shot away. And that's how he got his reward on the first goal. They do what they do on the tin, Burnley. Shout out Hindu Monkey. I mean, everybody said it on Twitter with obviously the Barnes train. For those who think getting on, I would suggest the Barnes train is already pulling away with Arsenal away this week and Liverpool at home in game week 4. Doesn't appeal
just yet.
No. So I think those who got on game week 1, well done. You've had a great return there. It's a sort of, Barnes, yeah. And then you see Match of the Day highlighting his goals per minutes. Looks really good, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Probably not the right time. We've missed it.
Do we need to talk about Crystal Palace 0, Everton 0?
Not overly.
I suppose if Morgan Schneiderlin hadn't got himself sent off, would it be in a potentially bit of a different game?
You do bring up a good point, which is worth reference. They played Watford at home in game week 2, Everton. And they've got a problem in midfield now because Gomez went off injured. Schneiderlin's injured. Delph's injured. Obviously, Gay's gone. Gabamin came on and did okay by all accounts. Suddenly, he's in there on his own already and not up to fitness. And despite that, we'll talk about it in a bit about Watford real struggles at the moment, but they've got power in there with Capoue and Decore. It might be a difficult game for Everton. Those who've gone on Dean and Coleman, etc., Pickford, you'd be well happy with a clean sheet at the weekend. Felt like on chances at the end, although Everton were the better side for most of it, I mean, Meyer and Jordan Ayew had the 2 best chances of the game and really should have scored. Everton lost a lot of momentum in the game, it felt, when Gomez went injured.
Yep.
Went off injured.
And you'd expect to see Zaha back pretty soon.
So there was a brilliant shot of Zaha when he came on. He got quite a good reception. It was one guy just in the middle who was not having it. He was proper dishing out the wanker. He was like, no, fuck off. Everybody around him was...
Who was that? Roy Hodgson?
Was just one guy. The ultras, you can't be ultras in South London, can you? But they all wear black, don't they? And they were all like giving him a decent reception. This one guy who was just, look for it back, he just wasn't having it at all, mate.
Roy Hodgson said that he was just a bit rusty, but from next week it's going to be back to business as usual. I think you'd want to see a couple more games with Zaha and see how they set up before committing. McTavius on Twitter was saying that he was impressed with Meyer and he thinks that there's some goals in him in the few games that are coming up, and he's priced quite cheap.
He's a nice, tidy footballer, Max Meyer. Me and Mig spoke about him a few times in pre-season. The price is okay at 5.5. You probably need Zaha to play up front for him to sort of stay in that position wide on the left and getting close to the box. He strikes me a little bit, though, that he loses a bit of calmness in front of goal. Like the chance he had at the weekend, just roll it home, mate. And he's just hit the thing as hard as he could. And he didn't hit it that hard. And Pickford spread himself quite well. The concern with Palace, there's a few that I know Gary Cahill was playing for the under-23s tonight, I believe. And there's a couple of others getting back close to fitness. It just feels like they didn't really do anything. They've lost Wan-Bissaka and it's the same team.
Yeah.
Otherwise, those who are on Kelly, you're probably safe for a couple of weeks yet. Not that I think you'd be starting with him.
No. Watford 0, Brighton 3. I'm very wary about talking about this game as a what's wrong with Watford as opposed to what's good with Brighton. Quite often with the lower half of the table sides, when they do beat a top half of the table side, it's more doom and gloom about what they did wrong rather than what they did right. So let's start with Brighton first and give them the credit that they deserve.
Well, didn't we spend 20 minutes on them this morning?
We did. Just for the listeners that don't listen to all of the content we put out, do listen to the People's Poll. It was an episode that we put out just 20 minutes, 25 minutes, specifically looking at Brighton and the assets that they have. I was very, very negative on Brighton throughout the whole of the summer until we sat down and spoke to Sam, FPL Seagull, who watches them week in, week out. And I saw a bit of their transfer business and the way they were going to set up. I thought, you know what, they'll end up being a very tidy side, and it proved so on the weekend. Slight change in formation to 3 at the back with wing backs, but in the middle of the park, to be honest, none of their new boys actually got onto the pitch until they were brought on. It was a pretty settled side from last season. Couple of new. But
I saw quite a few who gambled on Trossard who never got on at all.
Yeah.
Potter said, since we've recorded that this morning, Potter said interestingly that basically because it was away game, first game, he went with a bit more of the tried and trusted. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that like Trossard and Maupay are suddenly going to come into the team. Because the guys who've just gone and won at Watford deserve another game, right?
For sure.
That's the problem. I mean, could he play Trossard ahead of Lecadia, for example? Yeah, absolutely. As I said on the earlier pod, I imagine eventually it'll end up with Trossard, Gross and Maupay up front, is what I would imagine. I
can see Aaron Moy getting in ahead of Propper or Stevens. I think Aaron Moy will be
potentially, and as I said this morning, you've got Basuma to come back into that area. You've got Webster, who they spent nearly 20 million on from Bristol City, is on the fringes at centre half. We think, just in short, if you can't bother to listen to what we said earlier, the tip there is Montoya, in my opinion. If you want a 4.5, who's a defender, who's going to play, he's basically out of position. He played in a more... His average position was more advanced than Solly March playing left wing back, for example. That's one to look at. That said, a lot of the guys might be on Ryan and that. So I'm not advocating you don't go to 2.
The problem we've got at the moment with Brighton is that defensively is where you're less likely to see rotation. Ryan, Dunk, Duffy, Montoya, not really likely to be rotated. Burn could be. He's only just broken into the side. And Solly March on the left could move around. But then from the midfield all the way up to up front, with the new signings and the depth that they have, there's much less reliability. I agree with James on Montoya. I think Dunk is the one that potentially is going to rise up, but they're both priced cheap, man. 4.5 is cheap at the back, and you'll get good value. I can't see Dunk picking up 2 assists every week, much in the vein of Eric Peters, but I don't mind.
Get 2, did he?
Yeah,
just 1.
Dunk picked up. 1 assist.
As I described it this morning, buffet ball of the week.
Yeah.
Help yourself. Brilliant pass.
Good to see Pascal Gross picking up with an assist as well. He had a difficult season last season, but I'd like to see Pascal Gross do well this year. Let's talk about Watford. So we were talking about their results in their last few games, but they've just gone and lost 3-0. They got hammered in the FA Cup final. They got hammered by West Ham at home on the last day of last season as well. And they're starting to concede and leak a lot of goals.
Yeah, well, I touched on Watford briefly on that pod as well, but I said to you this morning, and I don't feel differently since I said it, was the idea that the team feels almost a bit too settled. You kind of know if they're fit what that 11's going to be. Now, they've got additions to come into that, like Welbeck, for example. Is it going to make a difference? I mean, if you had Delafeu at the weekend, a few people were, oh yeah, he's fit, and we kind of warned, we're not really sure. He played off the left, didn't he?
Yeah.
And Andre Gray up front. On paper, they are what we kind of predicted mid-season, a team that will finish 11th. That's kind of where you see them. But that's not really an acceptable result. I've seen a few people today saying that's the worst Watford performance they've seen in a long, long time. We're talking years here. And there's concern already.
There's concern. I agree with concern. I don't agree with panic stations just yet. Javi Gracia proved last year that he can get them up and tactically set up for decent games, and they did play well. A couple more difficult results, like when West Ham go to Vicarage Road. If we beat them, then I think that actually, you need to start thinking what's going on here. We've lost 2 out of our first 3. And we've got some difficult games coming up. So Watford, there's no FPL assets that are getting picked by many people anyway, other than Delafeu. So there's not really much FPL kind of attention going that way. A few people might be on Foster, but that's it really, right? There's not really any attention elsewhere.
No, I think they were one Watford where a few gambled opening day, and I think it's absolutely fair enough that they did. The gamble hasn't worked. It's not to mean that you should fucking panic and come off straight away necessarily, but I don't feel like I can be looking. They bought a player, Watford. I don't know if you know this name. Ismail Sarr?
He's a winger. Belgian, right? Or French? One or the other.
Yeah.
They paid good money for him on the last day of the season.
How much they paid for him?
24, 25, something like that.
I heard it was 40.
As much as that? I thought it was mid-20s for Sarr. And he's supposed to be a decent player.
Yeah, 13 goals for Rennes last year. I'd be very honest, I don't know a lot about him. But if they paid that sort of money and after that performance at the weekend, it won't be long before he's in the team.
Yeah, for sure. Let's talk about Spurs 3, Aston Villa 1. Pulled it out of the bag in the end, but there was a lot of that game where it was disappointing from Spurs. Not surprising, but disappointing nonetheless, mainly because of the front three. You didn't have Eriksen, no Ali, and no Son. And that left Lamela and Moura as the creative forces behind Harry Kane. Harry Kane did as he does when he had the couple of chances. He put it in the back of the net. But I think we talked about the formation change on our Tottenham show. We're going to talk about that. But the concern for me is the lack of strength of depth when you need to change formations up a lot. This is going to be the biggest problem for Spurs this season.
Tactically, just briefly, because I'll hammer it out on tomorrow's pod. Obviously, 4-3-1-2 didn't work. We moved to a 4-4-2. It was a lot better. And we moved to a 4-2-3-1 when Eriksen came on, and we just completely dominated. He was a massive difference, Eriksen. I do think he will still leave before the foreign window shuts. But you talk about depth. So I would say to you...
Up front, predominantly.
All right, so this team at the weekend, no involvement for Son.
Yep.
Ali.
Yep.
Lo Celso.
Yep.
Sessegnon.
Yeah, but this is the challenge when you got injuries, right? So strength and depth, if every team had all their players fit all of the time, would be a completely different conversation. This is when I'm talking about depth when you do run short, because give me a season where you've had all your players fit all of the time.
Well, we've been a little bit unlucky. If you think about that January run where we lost Ali, Kane and Son all together. You've just gone and played now without Ali and Son again.
We struggle with injuries at West Ham and people say it's down to a bad fitness regime or bad training work or bad medical staff.
Look at Liverpool. I don't give a fuck how good they are. I take Salah and Mane out of that team together. I've got a problem.
Yeah, for sure. Spurs, though, last season and the season before have achieved what they have without playing well.
Agreed.
And you've achieved better than your squad on paper, for example.
Yeah.
So how long is that going to keep going on for? Because whilst you've strengthened, I don't think you've gone and spent the money that, like the way that City and Arsenal, like look at what Arsenal have done and what have you. So you're always trying to overachieve. And if you do get injuries like you have and you lose Eriksen, this might be the season that it's going to be even harder. I think it's going to be harder this season than last season.
I think Lo Celso is probably, a direct replacement for Eriksen. I mean, if they both stay, then, you talk about depth, you go away with that, mate, because we'll have plenty, right? Yeah. We'd argue once they're all fit, there's too much. You'll be looking at some attacking players and going, they can't even get on the bench. So don't think that's an issue. And we're talking about Son's a suspension. Ali will be back in a couple of weeks. It's not a major problem. The biggest problem with Spurs at the moment is fullback areas, where quality-wise, it's not up to it. Now, Danny Rose, I love Danny. Even despite the speculation, I know he'll always put a shirt on, he'll die for me. That's why he made some very strange positional and rash choices at the weekend, like even McGinn's goal. He's gone way past the ball. I don't know what he's doing. And there was another one.
Almost.
There was another one where he went to close the ball on Trezeguet, and Trezeguet was just in behind him. The ball was gone and away. I think, strange. Cole competes really well. He's got the chance to make the shirt his own. I know a lot of people have gone for him, and they're asking, will he play again? Yeah, I think he probably will play at City at the weekend. I've seen some who are theorising that Walker Peters will play in home games and Aurier in away games. Don't necessarily see that. There will be rotation. I've warned many, many times. At the moment, avoid Spurs defensively.
McGinn is the one from Villa that's put his hand up because he scored the goal and also 5.5 million. There are a lot of players have a 5.5 or 6 million slot in their midfield for somebody. Mine's taken up by Ceballos at the moment, and McGinn, I had one eye on from pre-season because of what Adam Hopcroft said on his 30 and 30, that McGinn does get about the pitch and he's a really busy player and he's likely to be a ever-present as well. And he showed it at the weekend against you guys.
He'll break into the box. So I think in terms of attacking returns, where he might let himself down is, I've said to you off camera, like he'll get a lot of
yellow
bookings.
Cards.
He'll outscore Grealish.
Over the season.
Yeah, in terms of goals, he'll outscore him. He breaks into... Grealish doesn't make them runs. Grealish he wants the ball at his feet constantly, and he wants to dictate the tempo. And he's very good at it, Jack Grealish. He's the king of winning fouls, by the way. He's absolutely brilliant at it. Properly frustrating if your team's playing him.
Yeah.
He's very good at it. But McGinn's the one that will break. And important to reference on that is Wesley, because I know quite a few have gambled down that route. Hard to judge in terms of if he'll be a goal-scoring talent based on what I saw at the weekend. He didn't have a physical chance in the match. But he wants to drop in and he's quite physical and he's back to goal and it's actually the runners off him that will benefit. So McGinn, for example. Trezeguet could be one that I'd really keep my eye on, but Jota, the Villa version, is in the background. So you've got between them two and El Ghazi, it's kind of 2 from 3 and you don't really know. McGinn's right, and I know that on Thursday when we have Adam on, he's going to shout him up and he's going to say you should get him in, and I'm already aware and I'm already thinking about it and I'm conscious of it. Yes, right now he would probably be the best 5.5 million shout.
We might find that Wesley is in a very similar mold to Haller at West Ham in that he's great for the players around him, maybe not necessarily the best asset himself, but he does allow the attacking midfielders in and around him to actually create. I thought Trezeguet was really good and interesting. It's just, will he keep the shirt is the challenge there.
They tired the second half, but he did well. I credit to Dean Smith as well, but I suppose we had 24 shots on goal in the second half. I don't suppose he could say that Spurs didn't deserve to win. That last 20 minutes is the best we've played in a home game in over a year, I would say. But the rest of the performance was mediocre, but for an actual period of the game, it's incessant. I knew we were going to win the game, even with 5 minutes to go. The players knew they were going to win the game. Had them. Just a couple of things to reference. Kane, 8 shots at the weekend. That's double what anybody else did in the Premier League over the weekend.
Yep.
And Tyrone Mings was absolutely outstanding for Villa. Most clearances and most blocks in the league
I saw
at the
his
weekend.
stats were really, really good.
Absolutely terrific. He was very unfortunate
when
to end up on the losing side.
They've picked him up as a centre-half at 25 million, give or take a million is what they paid for him. And the price that some other players have been going for, not a bad buy at all.
He's another one where, like, Adam was banging on about him, wasn't he?
Yeah, he did say how good he was.
And you look at me thinking, from an outsider, if you've not watched nothing, you think, we didn't make it a Bournemouth, mate, and they're shit defensively.
Yeah.
Put him in that Bournemouth team, we're better.
Yeah.
It's a strange one, I don't know.
Leicester 0, Wolves 0. 2 good sides that we probably thought we might see goals in this game, and it's ended up a 0-0, but there should have been goals. Very wasteful. Both sides were getting in behind.
We're not going to talk about the disallowed goal.
No.
Because it's correct.
It is. Those are the ones that, as a football fan, you just... I don't know, you just get on with the game. Even the Aguero penalty.
It's a rule now, isn't it?
Just get on with the game.
Rule. I don't think that kind of goal should be disallowed. I think the rule's probably wrong. But that's what they put in. If it's a hand, it's offside.
Yeah.
FPL Pringle, our City correspondent, brilliant banging tweet yesterday. He said, VAR has saved us from the whole community telling us that Dendoncker is an option.
Yeah.
To be clear, we've all said all along, Dendoncker is the best 4.5 midfielder in the game.
For your bench.
For your bench.
For your bench. For your bench, for sure. But yeah, he did put it in the back of the net. And he will probably score 2 or 3 over the course of the season. Just happened to be the first disallowed one was on the first day of the season. It
might only be 1 or 2 now. You feel like it's gone a bit, don't you?
But Jota had chances. He broke in, just wasteful in front of goal.
He really
was wasteful in front of goal. It's interesting. We talked about the Sky Fantasy football game and the way that their bonus points is very different. But how you highlighted how the Leicester players... The back line did particularly well. BPS here as well. Pereira, Evans, Bolly picked up the BPS here.
Pereira had more touches than anyone else in the league at the weekend. It's because, and I kind of referenced this a bit more on the Sky game actually, on Wednesday's pod, is Wolves they like to sit in against teams that are as good as them or better than them, if we can, and they struggle to break down the teams that want to sit off them. Because Wolves want to sit off.
Yeah.
They're great when they've got it, but they want to see the game, feel the game in front of them. They don't want it behind them. Mm-hmm. So they don't press in those areas as such. If you think, you don't really see Doherty or Johnny getting into a fullback's face because they're worried about the wide players first and foremost, right? I mean, they bomb forward with the ball, but they get right back into a back five essentially without it. So don't press the ball. So teams will invariably, and it will be the same, you imagine with United on Monday night, where they'll have more of the ball. Now, we'll talk about United in a sec, but it's a completely different challenge to what United faced with Chelsea yesterday. Because Wolves ain't going to open up like fucking Chelsea did and get a blit raid on a counter-attack, which is what United want. It's just not going to happen. So it'll be a completely different game of football. But from that perspective, say, for example, if you've got Wan-Bissaka on that clean sheet, he'd probably be nailed on for bonus points. Outstanding performer in the game from what I saw yesterday and reading reports. Willy Bolly had a brilliant game for Wolves at centre-half.
Apart from having a helping hand in getting the goal disallowed.
Fuck all about it.
It was about 3 inches from his arm.
Interestingly, if it hit his back, would he have got the assist?
That's very interesting. I don't know. Ask who got the assist. I don't know. They might know.
Tom, Nick, let us know.
Let's move on. A couple more games to get through, and I do want to bash through some Twitter questions because people sent them in thick and fast. Newcastle 0, Arsenal 1. Arsenal just did enough, really. When I saw the lineup, I was like, okay, they have gone with some young talent. Fair play, give it a go. They got over the line. Newcastle had some chances, to be fair. Matt Ritchie put in a few good balls. Joe Shelby had his shot and stuff. But ultimately, Aubameyang looked dangerous. He broke... I don't understand. Do you know what... It was the way that
it was a shit fucking game of football, let's just say it.
The thing is, you know the way Aubameyang just finds himself in space, or Sterling or what have you. These top strikers at these top clubs just happen to somehow be in the middle of the 6-yard box with no one on them, just to put it in the back of the net.
There were 3 comical, huge errors. You might even argue 4 in the Arsenal goal. Dummett giving it away. Willems who come on, who looked, I'll be kind, rusty, slow to the ball. And Jamal Lascelles made a monumental error by forgetting about the main fucking dangers of Aubameyang. You look at that Arsenal team, you could look at the team sheet and gone, if Aubameyang don't score here, Newcastle got a chance. And the kids who played, I really like Reece Nelson. He's a top talent. And it's the first time I've really seen Joe Willock. I like him. Good footballer. Likes to run with it, drive, gives Arsenal a bit more depth, those two in positions. And they'll overtake the fucking people like Ozil and that, who, probably wrong time with what's going on with him and Kolasinac. I genuinely hope that gets fucking sorted. Mkhitaryan played all right. Both sides were very sloppy with the ball. Arsenal have obviously got quite a few players missing and needed to just get the result. So as much as I've been critical and said it's a shit game, Arsenal did what they needed to.
They got the result and the clean sheet.
Clean sheet, go and win the game. Newcastle shaded the first half. But Aubameyang needs one chance. He's a killer in front of goal.
He really is, isn't he?
Yep.
Yeah, great player. And then Manchester United 4, Chelsea 0. A game that could have gone really both ways. If you look at the chance that Tammy Abraham, if he hadn't hit the post or
great strike,
hadn't hit the underside, I don't know how his didn't go in. The way he just kind of hit the underside of the crossbar, and then came out. That either of those two go in, you're talking about a completely different game. But Chelsea did play into United hands, and if there's one thing that Rashford and Martial are good at, it's on the counter. Like Rashford running into a box on a one-on-one with the keeper, he's going to score. He's very, very good at that when he gets into those positions. I mean, he slotted home his second very comfortably.
It was a great watch, particularly the first half, but it was a great watch because it was unusual for a battle between the top six to be so. I mean, the pace of the first half was really good, and both sides contributed to a really good watch by being both bad and good in certain spells. Chelsea looked particularly threatening first half on the counter, but something was always missing. That Mount had a few where the final ball wasn't right. Barkley the same. Chelsea could have gone in at half-time in front. By the end, they've been left completely exposed. And I don't want to be too harsh on them, because if you look at the 11, and we've accepted, they're finally going to give these kids who we keep shouting for a chance. If you'd have put that 11 into a Chelsea team this time last year, you'd have gone, that's a Europa League group stage team where they've made sort of 7-8 changes. That's what you'd have thought looking at that team. And we know they've still got Loftus-Cheek, Hudson-Odoi to come back into that as well, but young players as well. I find the whole David Luiz thing really bizarre.
Well, it's clear that Frank didn't fancy him.
Well, supposedly that's the truth, but what I find bizarre about it is they let him go to a direct rival. And forget the whole London thing. They're going to be in competition with each other this season. You've just strengthened them. Because David Luiz, as much as he'll have his day, he'll have his shit day, but when he's at his peak, he's Arsenal's best defender now. It doesn't make sense. Why would you do that? And for fucking packet of peanuts, basically. I don't get it.
It happens a lot, though. I mean, you've had players go at their peak to their rivals. There was that guy that played for you. I can't remember what his name was, but he went across to Arsenal. Arsenal lost Ashley Cole to Chelsea. It does happen.
You can say his name, I won't. Right, but when that happened, we were fucking shit. We were bog standard mid-table, and they were either first or second in the league, right? Yeah. So, no.
But they were still a rival.
Yeah, but we didn't have a say in that happening, right? The guy was out of contract.
Yeah, I don't know if Chelsea, like, at the point that Frank's decided that he doesn't fancy David Luiz, it doesn't matter where he goes, surely.
Well, also, all right, he wants to give these guys a chance. I think it's one step overboard. If you're telling me that right now Christensen or Zuma are better than David Luiz, I'm sorry, you're wrong. I'm not having it.
Yeah, I don't think there's enough in it. But you're not just looking at on the pitch. You're looking at age and potential.
But they're putting all these kids in the team. Keep some fucking experience in it.
Yeah, I think Frank's made the decision that they're good enough. So whether his decision's right or wrong, I think he's made the decision that Zuma and Rudiger or Christensen, whichever he chooses, are going to be good enough. And against a lot of sides, they will be.
I think he's taken they've got two really good centre-halves who are in the background in Tomori and Clark Salter. And I think he felt if he didn't get rid of someone, then it was going to block their path. My opinion is they would have been better off letting Zuma go to Everton. And it would have been better for Everton as well. Rather than...
On loan or sold him?
Just sell him. I'm sick of all that with Zuma keep going on loan. I mean, look, if he's finally going to get the chance, fine. They've made the decision. I just think it's the wrong one.
I'm not judging Chelsea on that performance defensively yet. Now, they weren't great, but I mean, it could have easily been...
What did Ted tell us, Rotation FPL? What did he tell us?
He said that their defending was optional.
We were all warned, right? So
let's see.
I think that if they play like that again against Leicester on Sunday, one or two things will happen. It'll either really click and they'll be great and they'll win by a couple of goals, or Leicester will absolutely murder them on the counter. Vardy could have a field day.
It's going to be a really interesting watch, and I think it will.
Looking forward to that
about the setup for Chelsea and Leicester on Sunday for sure. Yeah.
United. Martial. We've got to talk about Martial.
He is flavour of the month for so many people at the moment. I think a lot of people are on Lucas or other 7.5 options like Fraser, and are now automatically jumping onto Martial. Talent never been an issue. Consistency of minutes. If he's playing every game, he's going to be in my team.
Well, that's what I'm beginning to think is we've said it so much. People in his position who it's the minutes. Their points per 90 are great, right? You want the security that they're going to play. Now, if he's going to play up there, I don't know. Is it an overthink for me? I've got Fraser and Mora. Am I overthinking it by not selling one and getting him in? I don't feel right now, my instinct is, I don't feel desperate to get him in for Wolves away. Because he ain't getting in behind them.
No.
It's not happening. So probably in that sort of game, a Rashford, even from the left, is probably more likely to contribute an attacking return in the game. I can see Martial getting bullied out of that game Monday night. That's my instinct in what I feel. And he'll get frustrated because he's going to have his back to goal quite a lot and be on the edge of the box. I'm frustrated that he can't get him behind because Wolves won't play like Chelsea did. Won't allow him that space.
Honestly, if I could, I'd find a way to find the extra million for Pogba. More reliable, more consistent over the course of the season.
So fucking deep. Yeah. Pereira played higher than him, didn't he?
Picked up 2 assists though, still. and he's just a class player.
Yeah. I didn't think he played well. I have to say that.
I thought he was good. But I think
I thought he was poor for Paul Pogba standards.
I'm hesitant on Martial. When Ole Gunnar first came in, it was Lingard, Rashford, and Martial were the attacking force there, and they did have a really, really good run. But at the time, Lukaku was out, Sanchez was out. Now Lukaku's gone. Sanchez is still potentially going to come into the team. Is it at the cost of Martial? And if that happens, then obviously Martial's not an option. But he can still be an impact player.
Alexis Sanchez is not getting in that team.
You don't think so?
Nope.
That's a big asset to be leaving on the bench. He'll be gone in the
Is
transfer
or
window.
was?
What do you mean?
Well, I look at what he's trying to do there, and he's blown Lukaku off and not bought a replacement, basically.
Yeah, but the money they've invested in Alexis Sanchez, he can't be left.
Look at the players he's bought. Wan-Bissaka in the fullback position. He's dynamite and he's quick. Daniel James, you've seen the explosion.
Yeah, I'm not saying
fast.
But Sanchez will be sold in the window then. If he doesn't get minutes between now and Christmas and prove himself.
I don't think United care.
$500,000.
Who will buy him?
$500,000
What's he
a
on?
week.
$500,000 a week. Who's going to buy him?
China.
Well, there you go. Fuck off to China, innit?
He's not coming in. If Sanchez got a long-term injury, I would be thinking, yeah, Martial now is definitely going to get a run. We've never doubted Martial's talent. He's still only like 22 or 23 or something, isn't he? They bought him when he was 19.
No, not quite, but
sure he's
he's about 24, I think, probably.
Well, a year in it. He's not Lingard standards anyway.
It's a big call. It's a big call. I think Martial's probably likely to rise in price before the weekend, I would suggest. And it's whether you get that itchy finger, because when I look at it, I go, Fraser with City afterwards, the week after, and the frustrating performance at the weekend feels like the one to sell, and will be for most.
But you bought him for a reason.
But who would I rather have this weekend? Would I rather have Martial even out of position away to Wolves, or Fraser away to Villa?
Fraser's going to get more joy against the Villa fullbacks, for sure.
Well, if they go with those two again,
Yeah,
Taylor and El Mohammadi, particularly if he lashes onto Taylor's side. Although I think those fullbacks could well change by the weekend. I feel like I want Fraser.
You bought Fraser for a reason because of the consistency.
Great shout there, by the way, right? If you're considering selling a player now in game week 2, why did you get him in the first place? Now, there is an answer to that. Like I said to you this morning off camera, I bought Lucas Moura for game week 1 and to make an assessment afterwards. But I knew that was my guy that I was unsure on. Now, I'm looking at it with Ali's injury and thinking, if we go back to 4-2-3-1, I don't mind keeping him for Newcastle at home, even if he's going to play out wide. So I've got a decision to make. I bet by the weekend Martial's in my fucking team.
It literally is like I had a premeditated potential move, which was Kane to Aubameyang, back to Kane. But now
feels shit,
now that
man.
I've got a move that I want to do with Ceballos to McGinn, that's not a priority for me. It was a premeditated move if nothing else was there, and I could potentially do it. But it's not.
If you're 100% happy, I think you could have considered it.
Yeah, but hardly ever. When does that ever happen in FPL?
You might get away with it as well, because unusually for Kane to do damage like that, his price might not go up. We're starting to see the volumes of movements now on statistics and fix and that, which are worth absolutely keeping an eye on. Kane, because of the City fixture, might not jump up. And in which case, you could dive that way. It's kind of a tactic we would use for Sky, right?
Yeah.
To dive in and out. It could work, but I feel like I've said to you that I would like to take a -4 and make 3 transfers in game week 3.
Rather than
and that's more what I feel like now.
I'm with you. I'm with. It's funny. We want information to be able to make decisions. I don't feel like game week 1 gave us enough information to make a big decision like that too quickly.
No, and you can read too much into one game. There's a lot of players who, Arsenal, for example, their team's going to look very different this coming Saturday to what it looked like last week, I think.
Yeah, for sure.
For example.
For sure.
And they won't be alone. There's other teams, Palace with Zaha back. There's other teams that are going to make changes. So, no, it's why the majority will be thinking wildcard international break and that. Should we do some Twitter cues?
Let's do some.
Fucking intense, that. Love it.
Twitter questions.
No, that was quite intense.
Well, we've been through the games in a decent rundown, and it was enjoyable just to have some football to talk about, to be honest with you.
That's very true. To actually react on football.
There is only one place to start, and that's Big Geezer Ron Weasley.
Oi, oi.
Oi, oi. He started with something a little bit more light-hearted. Ron Weasley's question of the day. Which of these players would you least like to mark? Frank Rijkaard, while you're wearing a mullet. Lineker from behind during Italia 90. And let's be more specific, that specific game in Italia 90.
When he shit himself.
Yeah. There's a shit emoji on that. Or Duncan Ferguson after he sharpened his elbows.
Duncan Ferguson's not a fucking option.
You don't want to mark him?
No, it's not an option, mate. The height of me and the height of him as well. Wouldn't even have to leap and just be standing still going like that, wouldn't it?
Poking you out the way. Frank Rijkaard, not for me. I would probably say I'd rather not mark Gary Lineker.
I'd go Lineker.
You'd just say that.
Lineker
just have a
shit,
shower.
yeah.
You just have a shower after the game.
The thing with that as well is one of Lineker's great strengths was his movement, right? You'd smell him go, wouldn't you?
That's true. That's true. And dealing with Lineker, the worst place you would end up is in the shower, whereas Duncan Ferguson, you quite end up in fucking A&E very easily. That could be some real lasting damage. So, yeah, by process of elimination, I think
presume
Gary Lineker...
Rijkaard is in based on spitting, or have I missed something else there?
Yeah. There's a camel emoji, and camels are known for spitting a lot. So there you go.
Ain't it? Not llamas. What the fucking guys? Alpacas. Yeah, the camels spit as well.
Well, they're all from the same kind of family.
Oh right.
4 legs and furry.
Okay, they shared.
And if I'm wrong, and you're an animal specialist, don't tweet.
It's the fucking FPL community. Half of them are animals.
Right. Which team? This is from Tomo, FPL Blade, who happened to be in England over the weekend. I don't know if you saw his sister's wedding.
He said he was at a wedding. A wedding. Hell, I'm turning into Jonathan Ross here. Aren't I? A wedding, and he fucking ruined the speech or something when Sheffield United scored. Yeah. So he reckons.
Yeah, it's only a sister's
Hashtag
wedding.
didn't happen. Maybe I don't know. Good story though.
Which team surprised you the most, and which team are you now concerned about after game week 1?
That's a very good question. Surprised the most? We'd have to say Brighton, wouldn't we?
I don't think Brighton surprised me. I think I'm going to go with...
West Ham? I thought you would have lost by more.
They were... The result was a disappointment. I don't think the performance so much.
No, the performance met expectations.
No. The performance was better than the 5-0. This is a tough one. I think... I would have gone with, surprised me the most, any of the promoted clubs, Norwich or Villa. I expected decent things. They actually all came out well. Norwich and Villa both came out well, despite losing.
Yeah,
their
all
games.
3 sides did okay at the weekend. Norwich are going to come swinging at some teams and have some good days and some really bad
I think
days,
they're the ones that potentially surprised me the most. Concerned about Watford, probably the W's, Watford and West Ham.
I think Bournemouth, if we relate it to FPL, Bournemouth.
Concerned you?
But I feel like we've seen that performance so many times against teams that have blocked them. And it might be a different game at the weekend.
FPL Addict, he comes in with, what are the implications for the Liverpool defence if Alisson's out for a while, especially those tripling up? Well, for now... Hold your fire, really. Southampton away is a game that you can justify having them. Trent is going to pick up so many attacking returns if he plays 38 games.
What certain things happen, right, which are not always visible to the eye, but you know, right? So just having the guy behind you and you know the way he moves, the way he talks to you, the way he commands his area can have a massive impact. If you think about Liverpool's next 2 away games, Southampton in game week 2 and Burnley in game week 4.
Yep.
There's 2 things those 2 teams do really well, and it's delivery of a ball from a set piece. That would be the biggest concern. The actual game itself's not a concern. It just puts people on edge, not knowing what the guy behind you is going to do. Massive impact people talking to me last year, Gazaniga's better than Lloris. Stop. You're fucking smoking drugs, man. Honestly. Adrian, for me, is bog standard. I know you rate him. You think he's all right.
I think he's a great shot stopper. And, yeah, he's like for a team like West Ham.
I don't think, to give you a perspective, I don't think he would get in many Premier League teams right now. I'd say 3 or 4 at most.
Yeah, I mean, there's a good standard of goalkeeping. If you look at Pickford, Leno, there are a lot of good goalkeepers around.
If Alisson's out for months, which we don't think he is, but if he is, this Liverpool defensive thing is a problem. You're keeping them in for attacking returns, and they can't win the league. It would be that big. If Alisson's out for 3 months, give Man City the league now. It's finished. It's over.
Yeah, I think that's fair to say. I'm trying to think if I've got any counterpoint to that, but 3 months definitely not.
That said,
hopefully you'll know within
if
a day
it
or
goes
two.
the other way, and Edison's out for 3 months, and Bravo's injured, Bravo's in goal for 3 months.
Yeah.
Liverpool got a chance.
Yeah, true.
Just a chance.
Ben Miller, this is an interesting one. What was the highlight of your live stream on Friday with the show?
I enjoyed it. And next time we do it,
But the highlight is clearly
Manchild lost himself when we spoke about Isaac's success.
Yeah, and he might pop into the room in a little while to check the audio
So
levels.
Manchild put Isaac's success in his team for some reason. And what did you say? And the guy fucking
I just
wet
said
himself.
Isaac's success. He thought I said I is a success. He thought the guy's name was I is a success.
He doesn't get out much.
Nah.
Me and him were laughing our heads off because just laughing at him. I don't even know what he was laughing at.
He just
Fucking
thought the
idiot.
guy's name was I is a success, and that was the funniest name that he'd ever heard.
Yeah, but he normally picks players based on names. So
Yeah,
I don't know
that's
what the big deal was. Yeah, that's why success was in his team. Live stream, we're going to do that one game every month.
For sure.
What we'd like to do, I think, is try and do Friday night games because then we can talk about the weekend to come as well. We next time we do it, we'd be a lot more prepared. It didn't help that the game was so flat. And I think we just picked all our teams, and whereas next time we do it and I'd be a bit more focused on the actual football, I think.
Yeah.
But yeah, enjoyed that. We'll do it again.
Adam Pritchard, Adam 35 who at 35 who Adam Guna wants to know if she should deactivate his account and just leave the game because he's sitting below your missus and below.
Excuse me.
Just realised that it came out. He is bottom of the correspondence league.
This ain't getting better, is it?
And he's below your Planet FPL
Where
wifey.
he had the lowest correspondence score from the weekend.
Yeah, which was 63, which is a decent score any given week.
He captained Aubameyang.
Yeah.
He had Sterling in his team as well. It just, that
Small margins,
all right,
Adam.
so he's behind now. Next week, he looks like he's got the best captaincy option sitting there in his team ready.
Correct.
So I wanted one of them at the start. You know that, Aubameyang or Lacazette. It went through my mind last week just to go Aubameyang over Kane. Imagine. Fucking grief I'd have got if I changed my mind. Stuck to me guns.
There are quite a lot of questions around Martial, so we're going to skip past those because we've had plenty of time talking about whether or not he is an option at the moment. Kind of wait and see what you're thinking. Gary Shepherd at Gary_Shep on Twitter. He says, can a KDB plus Kane combo, so that's 9.5 plus 11, so you're talking 20.5 million, match Sterling plus a mid-price forward, Wilson or Jimenez? Also, if I downgrade Trossard, you may have mentioned this today, to Dendonka and put an extra 1.5 million in.
The answer to the question
That's
is
insane.
absolutely yes. Because single-handedly, Kane might outscore Sterling.
Kane's sitting on 2 goals already for the season. Kane will be 20-something plus points.
Kane and KDB
goals,
will have a more consistency. Sterling will have the more explosive scores. He's also going to have some weeks where it's going to be blank as, right? So
Well,
he's turning into... I think he's right at the peak now. I think whatever he goes on to be, I think this right now is the best Raheem Sterling you'll see this period of last year, this year, and maybe next year. This is it, the peak right now. England have to find a way to fucking tap into that talent because he's becoming a goal-scoring sensation. And yes, he is, when we did the correspondent prediction one, you looked at him thinking, he is capable of being top goal scorer.
Yeah. This is a very difficult one for me because I'm Sterling and Kane in my team at the moment. So if you can figure out a way of just getting Sterling and Kane in and be done with it, you'll be able to cope without Mo Salah.
Probably the answer. I have to say, it broke me taking KDB out last week. I looked at so many ways of having KDB and Sterling together, and I just didn't like them.
I prefer Sterling. Just the position on the pitch, right? Sterling's part of a front three. KDB's part of a
I wasn't prepared
three.
to compromise going Sterling and KDB and no Kane.
Sterling and KDB.
Or no Aubameyang.
Yeah, I
was
have done
insistent that I wanted a premium centre forward to start, and I'm glad that I've got one.
I would take Sterling over KDB, and I'd rather keep Kane. So I'd make the sacrifice elsewhere. You've talked about upgrading a 4 million defender to Zinchenko by downgrading Trossard to Dendoncker. Almost I'd rather do Trossard to Dendoncker to allow you to keep Sterling and Kane, because Dendoncker will be consistent play throughout.
Dendoncker's a consistent sub.
Yeah. Yeah, this is a very, very difficult one.
Be careful not to get this
difficult.
overhyped. You spot on what you said. You get 3 or 4 goals.
Yeah.
Great. We might as well get any 4.5 million midfielder. We just think that with his attacking potential, he looks like the best one because all the others are real sitting players. Your Haydens, your Chowdhuries. Dendoncker should get the highest numbers of those guys.
Let's answer an easy question, shall we? Ronan Mehigan asks, if you decided to promote a 4.5 million outfield player to your starting 11 to save money for other players elsewhere, of course, would you be looking at a 4.5 million defender or midfielder to make your starting lineup? Are you comfortable with starting Dendoncker or maybe Dunk or Montoya?
It's an easy question. We just did it.
That's what I'm saying. There are no decent midfielders at 4.5.
My answer to the question is,
week in, week out.
If you want to go down that route, find yourself a rotation that you like.
Defenders.
So you might want to look at, Wolves, West Ham, you're probably going to have to pay over the odds for it.
The problem is they're too expensive.
Watford, Brighton, maybe you might want to go Montoya and look at like a Feminier or something, but Watford don't feel like to be trusted. I think it's 16 games without a clean sheet. Watford, I'm sure I saw today.
There's options at Sheffield United. You might want to look there. For me, Brighton,
I forget who they're paired with.
Brighton,
but I would, if that's your choice, get yourself 2 4.5 defenders if that's the way you want to go and play one of them.
Yeah.
Rather than Dendoncker.
And Matt Halliday wants to know if Lundstrom deserves to get a start, and I'm assuming he means a start in his FPL team.
No.
Because of the 1 bonus point on Saturday.
No.
If that's your cup of tea, then go for it, but I really don't think so.
No.
Right, okay, here we go. FPL Tractor. When do you guys expect to use your wild card? Is James going to hold out until almost Christmas again?
I think that's probably very dependent on Liverpool in the next few weeks and what this situation unfolds. I'm in on the back 5 and I'm staying on it. I think, I showed at the weekend that even without the clean sheet from Liverpool, it could still hang with everybody else's points. So I feel like I'm sticking with it. And I think this is the sort of week where scoring's not going to be the same. And if City and Liverpool can keep a clean sheet, I'm going to have a very good week again. And it's probably going to be a differential for me. I know everybody's probably got at least 1 of each, probably 3 between the 2 clubs. I've got 5. It's my differential right now, really.
Yeah. I'm with you on that. Right, next question's coming in from John Jacobson and also FC Crooner. They both have very similar questions about your friend Lucas Moura.
Lucas Moura,
Crooner wants to know what
baby.
his chances of starting once Son is ready to go.
Lucas Moura, whoa.
Going to play in game week 3?
Surely, when we play Newcastle at home, we're not going to play 4-3-1-2. Surely.
Don't watch your boys week in, week out.
And in which case, yeah, he probably plays in one of the wide positions, I would have thought, with Lo Celso or Ericsson behind Kane.
You're holding, right?
I don't know.
Okay, so
I
John,
don't know. Is the honest answer.
you need to follow. Well, you obviously do follow James on Twitter because you put the question on Twitter. Just keep an eye because he will tweet what he's doing. To be honest, I don't have an opinion either way.
I feel
For
like
me, he was a punt pick to start with, so yeah, not for me.
I'd be surprised if we don't play this 4-3-1-2 this weekend. It's suitable at City to try and nullify them, and what I said, breaking through the middle and trying to get at them quickly, which means Luca's playing up front and not wide in Son's absence. So there is a temptation, even though it's City, to keep it this week. So I think the most likely thing I'm going to do right now is nothing, because I'm not sure. Something in the week between now and the weekend, like an injury, might change my mind. Liverpool playing Chelsea Wednesday night in the Super Cup. One of them gets injured defensively, everything changes.
Yeah,
so,
massively.
probably shouldn't be making any moves to after that, because we've all got Liverpool assets, right?
Yeah. Yeah, you need to have 2 or 3 for sure. Ronan had another question. Is it too early to react to price changes? Logically, he would like to see Fraser play Villa before considering moving to Martial or what have you. Is it too early? This is one of those situations. I ended up going into the season with $500,000 in the bank. How much did you have or not?
None.
None.
No, I spent it all.
So this is where that little $500,000 actually kind of comes in handy, where it doesn't put the pressure on to have to make the move to miss a 0.1 rise, and gives me just that little bit longer to see what happens. But it's the first half of the season when you do need to be conscious about building value in your squad, but at the same time making moves early to try and beat price rises can be quite detrimental.
The problem is with that, so you get to sort of Thursday, Friday, and you see Fraser about to dip, and you know Martial's playing out of position, and you know Martial could probably match Fraser this weekend, and then the week after Fraser's got City and Martial's got Palace at home, and you think, oh, fucking hell, should I just do it a week early? And I'm not saying that's a bad decision. You do get hung up by that value thing, like, strongly, because you know that's 0.2 difference, right? And then if Martial does the business and Fraser doesn't again, that gap's going to widen. What's hanging in my mind is, with Fraser, is, yes, I got him and Wilson in for game week 1 with the intention of selling one of them for game week 3. My intention wasn't really to sell both. It was to get both in and then have a look, because I don't really hate what's afterwards for Bournemouth. From game week 4 to 7, Leicester away, Everton at home, Southampton away, West Ham at home. I don't hate it. Arsenal away, then Norwich at home, Watford away. I don't hate it. Like Fraser and Wilson, their points per game's great, man. Like, Wilson can get me assist every week. I don't fucking care. That's fine.
5 points, 8 million, and every now and then 7 points. Yeah, I would take that. I'd want a 6-point average from.
So, but you don't want 3 points per game having the 2.
No.
So my intention was always to get both and then make a decision between the 2. I might end up keeping both through game week 3. I might end up chopping both. I might end up taking a hit before this weekend. There's a lot can change. It's Monday, right?
Fantasy Football Potter asks, and this is a little tricky to answer without context, but we'll have a go. How long do you give a player who you don't own, who's banging, before you jump on him? He has a strategy. I don't want to break the strategy, but I don't want to miss out on big returns. For example, Rashford. Last year, I missed his and Pogba's Christmas hauls because I didn't want to break a strategy. Now, I've never done well by sticking to a strategy necessarily to avoid and not made the move to pick up players. You need to be flexible in this game. That's the whole point of it, and not be too stubborn. He saying that he's not going to change his back 5 for 10 game weeks. See,
yeah, but we are, right?
Exactly.
No, but
if Alisson's out for a while, we are.
Let's take that as the example, the Liverpool and me going treble defensive. In my head, I know that's what I want to do from a consistency point of view, right? And be brave and stick it out. But I also know I can't be stubborn about it and not realise that Alisson's got injured and it might not have an impact. What I now have to be in the zone is prepare myself that I was wrong and be able to change from there. And then quickly go, right, I'm going to dump one. I'm going to go 4.0 and I'm going to change my system.
Yeah.
You have to be prepared for that.
Yeah.
So the greatest fault you will have as an FPL manager is not accepting when you've been wrong. like prepared to be wrong.
Yep.
Be in a circumstance and say, if this doesn't happen, it's
What's
like
a plan
we
B?
buy a lottery ticket, right?
Yep.
None of us think we're going to win the lottery, but we might.
Yeah.
FOMO, right?
If for example, Allaire scores 2 against Brighton away, I'll look like superstar for having him, but it's luck. It's a guessing game at the end of the day. I think be flexible and don't be overly hung to your strategy. I'd give it 2 games. If I see a player's, it's not just if they've got FPL points like Eric Peters, I'm not jumping on straight away just because he picked up returns. But 2 or 3 games allied with, does it fit into the way my team structure is and what I've seen with the team, how they're playing, then yeah, definitely 2 games is enough to get me to want to bring in a player.
Just on Eric Peters, I should have mentioned that earlier. Obviously, yeah, he got the 2 assists. We kind of shouted up Charlie Taylor quite a bit in pre-season. That Peters will keep the shirt.
Yeah.
You know how Dyche works.
Yeah.
If the team's winning, he won't change
it at all. No. And lastly, and I say lastly because most, if not all the other questions revolve around United and Martial and when should you get Martial in and should you get Lucas out and Alisson and is it too late for Liverpool defence? All of the questions are focused into 2 or 3 very clear.
Always
spots
happens.
at the
That's why I ask you guys to be different sometimes.
Yeah, of course. Which fixture in the upcoming game week do you think will have a surprise result for fantasy managers? For instance, Pope keeping a clean sheet against Chelsea.
Or Arsenal.
And I originally, against Arsenal, for Burnley.
Yeah, I'd take that.
as a potential upset that you can see happening.
Oh, Spurs win at City, obviously. I'm not that dumb. Like, give me a draw now. I'll take that and run. Thank you very much. No, I mean, as it would stand now, Sterling will be my captain this weekend.
Yeah, no, he's mine too.
Yeah. Leicester could damage Chelsea. If they're going to play like that again, Leicester could damage them. And I wouldn't be surprised if Wolves beat United Monday night.
Yeah, that was going to be my shout. Have Wolves got Europa on Thursday or they got a week off?
Well, little problem. So they won the first leg away 4-0 last week.
Yeah.
So they really should be putting a reserve team out in the second leg with that lead. But then they play Torino on the Thursday after United. So then it's tight for them. So they play Monday, Thursday, Torino, Sunday, Burnley at home, and then Torino again the Thursday.
I'm going to go with Sheffield United at home to Palace.
It's a shock.
Is it a shock? Maybe not. Yeah, but I think all the 3 that have now been mentioned, Sheffield United winning, Leicester away at Chelsea, and Wolves at home.
I would expect Sheffield United to beat Palace at the weekend.
Yeah. All right. So then that's less of a shock for James here and Tomo.
In fact, there's every chance all 3 promoted teams could win this weekend.
Interesting.
Norwich got Newcastle at home.
Yes. So that's a wrap up of most of the Twitter questions that we've had and what we have time for today. Anything else to add?
No, I enjoyed that. Thanks, mate.
No problem at all. Always here for entertainment. We've got plenty of content coming out this week, as mentioned. If you want to listen to a little bit more chat about Brighton, the People's Poll, that was the topic that people wanted content about. So if you're one of how many people voted in that poll?
Or
Hundreds.
450 or something.
Yeah, so there's at least 450 people that need to, half of them because they voted for Brighton,
Brighton,
need to have a listen. We've got this obviously our main podcast for the week out now. Clash of the Correspondents is going to be really good. Adam Hopcroft, FPL royalty, and we have Neil, AFC BNG, who's a season ticket holder. No, he's not anymore, is he? But he gets to
He
watch
can't
his
get a ticket for home.
Bournemouth,
He goes to more away games than home games.
Yeah, exactly. But he's really knowledgeable about Bournemouth, who'll be on Clash of the Correspondents this week. Our usual Sky fantasy football nonsense, and then on Friday we'll be running down the Dead Team, which did okay, nothing spectacular.
Yeah, differential started okay. We captained Origi last minute.
Yeah.
Who got the i5 for that?
You.
Yeah,
all of the credit for that.
Thank you very much.
And also we'll run down our North versus South competition that we're running as well. I've lost the internet connection because I didn't really see. I know I scored something like 61 points or something.
You
like
got more than me. You got about 10 more points than me.
Yeah, and that's.
You should absolutely kill me in that. I think if my South team,
it feels
if it beats your North team, that's probably my greatest ever FPL achievement.
over the course of the season.
Or just you're that bad at the game when that's why it's happening.
Yeah, if we were to lose, then it would be a real disappointment. But
How did you not put Salah in it?
But it broke my structure.
it's not even that it breaks my structure. I'm just having a bit of fun with it. In the first 5-7 game weeks, I'm going to try a few of the talisman players at other clubs like Burnley and so on. I mean, I went with Chris Wood. I could have easily gone with Barnes. So what's the whack for?
We should have gone Ashley fucking Barnes.
Well, I could have gone either way, right? I'm picking players from not just City and Liverpool and United. I feel like it's going to be too easy otherwise. And already with that team, 10-point lead after 1 week, and you've got Tottenham are playing City this weekend. Yeah. Arsenal are at Burnley.
Yeah, I've got Aubameyang captain this week, haven't I?
At Burnley that we've just said that could be a difficult game for Arsenal. Chelsea are going to get
defensively. I've got great options. The fuck, man.
I did look at that and think, yeah, it's a worry.
I might go treble Brighton.
if it gets to Christmas and it's more than 60 points, then I might rule out Liverpool or City or something like that.
Nah, I'll come and get you anyway.
Yeah, let's see. Wishful thinking, but if you do beat me in that, yeah, it will be your greatest FPL achievement. I may retire from the show, not the game, but the show. Cool. Anything else to add?
No, I can already see people on my timeline going,
You didn't go tactically into Spurs like you said you would.
Oh, Tottenham, listen to
tomorrow's in depth on Spurs tactically.
Correct. I'm jetting off for a few days of sun.
In
between will be a bit of Zoom and dialing in and dealing with a bit of dodgy internet here, there, and everywhere. But I'll be back next Tuesday for us to sit next to each other again.
All right, look forward to it.
Indeed. Guys, do follow us on Twitter if you don't already. You can subscribe on iTunes. Our YouTube channel has videos of every podcast as well that you can jump in on. There'll be a video coming out soon of Manchild losing his shit to Isa Success at some point as well. Follow us on all of these channels. If you do subscribe and like the show, it does help us in more ways than one. And a reminder about the 24th of August, FPL Live 2, Planet FPL Live 2. Jump in and join us for that as well. Anything else?
Cue music, Manchild.
Ciao for now.
Love you guys.
Messi, ancora Messi,